Hallo Republika. Schön, dass ihr so
Hello Republica, thank you for turning out in these numbers. And there are still more people coming. We're playing the same old game on this stage. The people who are coming are looking for seats. If there are any seats left, please raise your hand now. One finger for one seat, two for two, and so on. There's one here on the right side. There's several at the back.
Sehr gut. If you didn't understand what I was talking about, it's probably because I'm talking German and you need English. It's no problem because we have we are translating and we have earphones. Just go back to the end of the room. They can get like your translation earphones and then you can listen to this session.
And if you're hearing this, it means that you're tuned in into the correct translation. So welcome. I'm very happy that you're all here because we are going to have time for your wishes for the next hour. What do we want work to look like in 10 or 20 years? And now we have the time and the space for your suggestions and for your debate. What on the subject of work and what work should look like. It's going to be presented by the journalist Christine Watty, who I would like to welcome to the stage now. My name is Christine Watty. I'm a freelance journalist from Berlin, and I'm going to be the presenter of this this talk. And hopefully the organizer, I'll mainly be organizing this talk because most of the work should be done by you because it's a town hall meeting. You could call it a popular dialogue, but it's, town hall meeting sounds more fashionable. And we're going to have the Federal Minister of Labor and Social Affairs on the stage, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to work now so you know what to do. You can either use the old-fashioned way and walk up to the microphone that's in the middle of the hall, but we're also offering you the option of coming up to this. There's going to be a podium on the stage, and if you want, just sit next to Andrea Nahles up on the stage, ask a question. And then please make sure that other people get the option to come up to the stage as well. So don't sit there for the entire talk, because we want to have time for as many questions as possible. So these are the rules, or that's the idea of this meeting. But none of this would work without the protagonist. But now she's here, Federal Minister of Labor, Andrea Nahles. So welcome. In the past year, we've had some popular dialogues with town hall meetings as well, and now you have to explain all these things that you no longer have to explain things like crowd working and all these buzzwords, but please explain what Work 4.0 means to you, because this process has been in place since April of last year, and there's what are the main points of it?
So there are changes, and I don't want those to be perceived as threatening by the people who are actually working. And as a minister, everybody's talking about bandwidth and progress and technology, but nobody's considering what that changes in work life and the way we use the leisure time. And that's why we sat together, reached out and published a green book, and didn't give any answers, but just created some analysis and some directions it could go in, and then spoke for a year with everybody who's concerned, like today, freelancers and small businesses, how we can protect them in age and insure them if they want. In fall of this year, we're going to release a white book, so that's going to contain some ideas of ours, how we could go forward from here. So this is a very intense and very interesting process. We have our own booth here, and I think I will probably learn some more today here and bring it back to the process.
The person before me up on the stage said that, yes, we were looking for wishes, and now we're going to have time for your wishes on what you want the future of work to look like. What are the main points that you've taken home from your talks with all those involved?
Well, I would say one big topic is, can I change my working hours? Can I have more control over that also in very classical jobs, not just in high-tech industry and startups and digital natives? So that's one thing. The second thing is we have lots of highly educated people, but many of them have been taught with the screwdriver. So we need requalification, maybe different qualifications. Sometimes we don't even know which kinds of qualifications we need. So that is the second point. The third point is, do we want to copy the system from other countries, or do we have our own ideas? For example, do we care how the people working in the platform economy, if they make enough money, if they feel secure in the jobs, or is there something we can do as a social, as a community, so differently than maybe the US, for example? So there's a broad spectrum, and also very many things that you can take off yourself. I don't really want to pass a lot of laws. I'd rather try and look for compromises when we need them. It's clear that not everything is going to remain the way it is now, and also not going to remain like the current laws are in effect. But we have to figure out where it's going, and I can moderate that, and maybe I can give some guidance, but I don't want to regulate everything by law. I want to create a space. I want people to feel empowered and to have the space to find their own compromises.
When you made your way to Republica today, I mean, you're in touch with a lot of people. Did you think that the people on Republica, they're going to ask me very different things than usual? So what do you expect from your talks, from your conversations today?
Yeah, I'm indeed a little more afraid from discussion here than maybe some discussion regarding a law about certain forms of work. So I have prepared by basically thinking about this process all the time, have very intensive discussions. I've spoken with people in the ministry about questions of work time and working hours and work-life balance. So yeah, I'm prepared, and I'm also very curious.
So we'll see if her fears are within reason or not. So now we're going to come to the participatory part of this this event. Are there any people who would like to come up to the stage to make their way from the first or 20th row up onto the stage? Otherwise, of course, there's always a microphone in the middle of the room. But there are seats up on the stage for anybody who has any questions on the dialogue of the process of Work 4.0, and for people who have thought about the future of work. Give a round of applause to the first participant. Please have a seat. Yes, please. Why don't you start with the microphone I have over here? Please just simply say your name and then ask your question.
My name is Christian Cordes. I'm from the German Co-working Federation. That is the it's the union base of co-working spaces in Germany. And there's one topic that is burning on our nails, and that is the Arbeitsstättenverordnung, so the workplace laws. And I think if we're trying to implement that in co-working spaces, that's going to force lots of co-working spaces to close, because that the classical understanding of a workplace cannot be related one-on-one to co-working spaces regarding the size of the workroom, the lighting, and so on. And if you're talking about new ways of working and Work 4.0, then I think that this is something that this new movement has taken for themselves in a certain way. And currently we feel that Work 4.0 is more of a bureaucratic approach that we're trying to force onto a new movement like co-working. And I think that would not be ideal for everyone involved.
Yes, we have. I mean, these laws for work protection and workplaces exist for decades, have been existing for decades, and they're not made by my ministry, but rather they're made in a conversation between employers and employees. And the newest the newest round of talk isn't over yet, so relax for now. But of course, this doesn't cover all the ways that people work. I mean, if you're working remotely, then there aren't any laws that cover that at all right now in Germany. Then again, if I were to work here all day, then it would probably be too dark unless you open all the windows. So there are certain rules if you're opening, if you're for people who provide workspaces. I think it's a good. You're opening a good point, and I assume you're working in a workspace that you're renting out, and because, of course, all these laws are, there's a constant process of change in these laws, but there are probably some adjustments we can make. We should definitely talk about this, and we have to look at it in more detail.
Yeah, I agree. But if we look at this, it's not a new topic, right? So the students have been working in university libraries or in cafes before, and that is not something that we've ever considered a workplace in the sense of the law. So we haven't really checked, look, how's the lighting, how's the ergonomics. So yes, mobile working definitely should be captured by law.
There are no plans there.
But the topic, the point is, I think, more complex. And what I think is very interesting is the nuance that people are choosing their workplace on their own. So if you go to a co-working space to work there, you did this out of your own free volition, and you made the choice to choose this workplace. So with this liberty that comes from growing mobility and always available internet and Wi-Fi is an aspect that I think needs to be taken into consideration.
Well, when I think about these things, I think of all the call centers where the working conditions are crap, and I think, what can we do about it? And yeah, you say people choose of their own accord, and yes, but that's only part of it. As a minister, I have to create laws that are valid for everyone. I can't say I'm going to create a special rule, because then we're going to get into this patchwork of laws. So I offer you to think about this critically. If there are too many, if this law is too broad, but there are certain conditions under which people cannot be allowed to work, because we know from practice, practical experience, that are loads of people that are going to have to provide terrible working conditions for very little money, and that's not something we made up. That's something we see every day. So yes, we have to find a compromise so that you can that both covers you and the people who need to be protected from some bad-smelling, bad-ventilated rooms where they have to work for €8 an hour. And I think we have to find a way. I'm prepared to talk about it in detail. We can't do that here, unfortunately, but working protection doesn't come for free, because we have to see that it's very needed in this country.
I'm just going to pass the mic on. Thanks a lot. Just for your interest, people can already keep coming up and sit down here. Yeah, I have a very quick question to you as a minister and person. I would be interested, if you think back to your time when you joined the Social Democratic Party and the zeitgeist today with the changing work conditions and everything, could you reflect a bit on the positions of the Social Democratic Party back then and how they compare to the situation today? I'm not in the party and I've never been, but if I listen to my parents, they definitely feel disconnected. So I'm interested in the reintegration of the old Social Democrats.
What do you mean by they no longer feel connected to the Social Democrats?
Disconnected insofar as that they're skeptical towards digitization and their topics that they found important as unionists from a few years ago, they don't see it reflected anymore.
We did a study on on working conditions, and we found that half of all employees want me to create more security, better rules, and all of which are values that your parents probably think about as classical social democratic positions. And the other half wants fair wages and good working conditions and good pension money. And half of people thinks this is very good and wants us to implement these. The other half thinks that it's holding us back, these values. And I can understand both positions from their working biographies, but I can't make everybody happy. So I'm trying to find one way that gives us more options to the individual, so that people can choose their own working hours, but they have to be well paid and they have to be well controlled, so that my employer gives me a certain framework for what my options are going to be. And this is one thing that I'm trying to implement, so that I mean, it doesn't make everybody happy, but you know, some think this is not enough, and some think this is already too much. But we have to find a way to that gives people a way to make their own decisions about their future, so that they can have safe working conditions. And I think the Social Democrats have to do this, but so does the government, so do all of us. It's not a question that a single party is going to be able to answer, but of course the Social Democrats are the party that people have the most expectations of.
How could that...
Wenn es so einen kurzen Punkt gibt, das ist, glaube ich, so ein...
I think we can only talk about reintegration if there's a short point in this.
Very quickly, thanks. I understand that, but that's kind of coming from the perspective that there is a certain work market that wants flexibility, and the question which areas we could create work in. Okay, maybe I didn't understand.
No, I don't agree. I'm looking at it from the perspective that what's been happening for the past 15 years, where the expectation of flexibility that corporations have had, they found their way into laws, but people had to reach for the ceiling to fulfill these expectations, and we did something to things to catch up, like paternal leave, But people are still working part-time more than they want because otherwise they will not be able to manage their families, and that's one-sided flexibility. I want more self-determination. I want more flexibility. I mean, flexibility isn't a one-way street. If I say that I should be more flexible, then it should be obvious that I can come to work 15 minutes late on some days and then leave 15 minutes early on some other days. A large part of people who would like to work remotely can't do it because employers say no, but I'm not going to allow it. But why can't we why can't we debate these things in advance? Of course, there are certain things that, there are certain requirements. Sometimes you will have to do a night shift, but I'm convinced that there can be more self-determination in the in people's working lives, and that's what I want to get. I don't want one-sided flexibility, and I want to have it on both sides, and I think that's what we need.
Okay, any questions on the audience, maybe? And also, there's a free seat here. Yeah, my name is Hendrik Jensen. For those who can't see me, I'm in a wheelchair. I have one question. What do you plan to get entrepreneurs to hire more people with disabilities? How can you make them see the added value?
We've tried one of our ideas in some federal states, and we want everybody who has a disability to be able to come up to an employer and come up with a way that's interesting financially as well, and say if you take this, if you take this money, you're going to get support. I don't like this very much. I would like for this to work without financial incentives, but yeah, we've seen some increases in the employment of people with disabilities, but it's not enough. So this is something that works in the meantime for those who want to take this option, and we're going to support them, and then they come, go to employment agencies, and we've tried this in Rhineland-Palatinate and seen some good results, and it's a law that I want to pass on a federal level. It's just a small part of what we might have eventually. Yes, we want to make all the corporations, and there are thousands of them who don't employ a single person with disability, and we're making them pay for it. But it doesn't change their opinion. It doesn't change their attitude. So we have to find a different way than these financial disincentives. But this is what we're going to try on a federal level.
How do you want to make the entrepreneurs aware of that this thing exists anymore?
Well, we have what we call an employee service at the Federal Agency for Employment, and it advertises very specifically. And I assume that the people with disability, because it's an individual claim that they can make, every person with disability can use this, and we're helping them with the employee service of the federal agency. And you can look at it. It's not something I just made up on the spot. It already exists in Rhineland-Palatinate, and you can see how it works in practice.
Thanks for the question. I don't know who of these two gentlemen reached the podium first, but okay. So you just start. Yeah, my name is Thomas Knuver. I'm a former journalist, and in 2009 I founded a management consultancy. We are 5 people and two employees. So what you just said with the call centers, I've realized something. I think there's one big problem. You're trying naturally, and the call center industry is probably one of the worst industries in Germany. You try to prevent something. And the industries that are suffering from that are also many others. So for a small company like ours, the current laws and the topics of bureaucracy and minimum wage are really bad for us as a small company, and it's really, really bad. So that makes our business really hard. And I'm under the impression that generally in politics currently the position is that you're trying to fight the worst instead of supporting that which will be better. Because I might be a little optimistic, futuristic here, but if we had more founders and then we had fewer people in call centers, because all of that creates jobs. So could it be that the politics always try to stop the bad?
No, the minimum wage is a very good thing.
No, I didn't say anything about the minimum wage, just the bureaucracy surrounding it.
No, it was just just something I wanted to mention. And if there are problems with documentation of working hours, I have loads of examples how this can work easily. So come up to me if this is something you're interested in. But I believe that you've talked about something very important, because this is the same dilemma I'm facing. This dilemma is that, I mean, yes, you're right that we look a lot at deficiencies. So this is why the Green Book that we've published takes a different approach, and we want to say, no, we're not going to follow the rules we've always followed. We're going to try something new and see if this is going to bring about the apocalypse or not. And we want to show how the working world of the future may look like with some less restrictive approaches. And there are certain things that we could try that we're not doing anymore, and we have to see if the things that are given to us on paper still work. And I think with me, you've got somebody who is trying to find different answers than we've been finding so far. And I see everything as a chance for good new work. I'm not trying to find threats everywhere, and there are enough studies that are creating massive hypes, saying like 46% of jobs are going to disappear. I'm never going to blow into that same horn. Although I may find some applause if I say, I'm not going to get any applause for saying we need to find a compromise, but we have to find new compromises. Some of the things we've had so far may not work anymore, and we have to talk about this, and we have to find ways to unify these things. And I'm not made of concrete. I'm very open to suggestions. But there is more than 1 million people who have temporary work, or more than 4 million people who earn less than minimum wage. These are not small parts of society. We need to create rules here, but it is a dilemma, because we need to find a way between, new shores and security. So maybe create a list of things that annoyed you about our ministry, and then we can meet up and talk about these. And I'm going to tell you that the Minister of the Interior is responsible for 5 of them, and 2 is so-and-so. But I'm going to, I promise you will find 3 that you're happy about as well.
Yeah, I accept the challenge gladly. That is indeed something that interests me, because you said that's the Ministry of the Interior's responsibility. So often you get to a point where you have to say, okay, what they've done is blocking our work, but that's not actually Ministry of Work. So
correct.
So that's not something that I would let my employees get away with. But isn't it, sorry that this sounds a bit aggressive, but isn't it the case that in politics in general currently, there's a lack of an understanding of what our society and the world will look like in 5 years from now, and then create coordinated politics and policies for that? So why are there many companies that say working from home doesn't work? Because the data privacy laws are absurd. Why? And also another reason is that we don't have the bandwidth. And Sigma Gabriel is one of the problems here with talk about vectoring and everything. So there's people sitting here where I think if we sit together, we could probably sketch out a picture of the 5 years from now, of the reality of 5 years from now. So my feeling is that the current government has no idea what the world is going to look like in 5 years.
We are going to... Oh, we're always surprised by the course of events. But as far as I'm concerned, for my ministry, we've created a new process with the Green Book that we're not going to shoot into Nirvana, but no, we're going to follow it up with the White Book that we're going to make the world happy with our vision of the future work. But we didn't just made it up, sitting at our desk. No, we've come up with it in debate with many people, some of whom sit here, some of whom don't. So yes, we're working on it, and I want to enable people to choose their own working hours, and I want to find intelligent solutions for self-employed people so that they can easily ensure themselves. Yes, I want to give startups better methods of financing themselves, even in the second phase of their life, and so on. And at the end of the day, we're going to come up with a better image of the working and economic society of Germany. And this is far beyond what we do on a daily basis. There's daily things of government, but there are also loads of conferences that are incredibly boring. So I would prefer to work on the centerpiece of people's working lives. And I would say that we're better than you're giving us credit for.
So I'm going to pass the microphone to this corner, and it's a free seat again. Hi, my name is Alexander Hermann. I'm a futurist, you could say, so it's very fitting. 5 years for me is a bit of a joke for me. I mean, I can't see the future either, but I usually think further ahead. Yeah, and so I wonder, Henry Ford once said, if you had asked people what they wanted, then they would have said a faster horse, and then he invented the car. And I think it's probably similar with statistics. Or polls, if you ask people what they want, and especially the topic of call centers, self-learning algorithms are already able to answer more than 70% of queries. Then same thing with AlphaGo, where people had expected that to take a little longer. So soon there might be a few 100 million jobs going away worldwide, not just by robots. So I wonder, wouldn't we also have to maybe think radically about redistribution of wealth and society? And also what came up in the conversation earlier, aren't we often blocking our own progress if you're divided into ministries like this? If you say, okay, so maybe redistribution, that is the finance ministry, but he doesn't like me so much and he's a different party, or, I mean, I don't want to imply anything, but you know what I mean. So I have these silos. And then there's also other resources. And wouldn't it be high time to break this up? How do you see that, this entire thing?
Yes, I really am of the opinion that if we live in a perfect society where everybody has work, but not for doesn't have to work for 40 hours per week. How are we going to finance ourselves? What happens to those people who mainly accumulate capital, and how do they contribute to the financing of society? And to be honest, this is probably not going to work simply on, by wage politics and tax politics. Instead, you're going to have to consider finding a more intelligent form of involvement, profits from creativity, and there are models that are being discussed, and I'm thinking about these models as well when as a Federal Minister of Labor, and therefore I think the different ministries have to come together on this subject. We have a digital agenda that all the ministries are collaborating on, and there are common initiatives, but they've been very much based on technology so far, and therefore I was the first to to ensure that my ministry is part of this debate, because I think it's a very important part of the change. When work and earnings from capital are being transformed, then the structures we've had so far in the organization of our country can't remain as they were. And therefore, I'm very happy that there are futurists like you, because I think that even if your expectations end up sometimes being wrong, your predictions end up being wrong sometimes, it's still good to have them. And it's not about changing the working hours, the laws on working hours, but rather on ensuring that the big monopolies that we have, how can we ensure that they're going to come up to their social responsibility? Because it doesn't look like, I want a democratic landscape where society can decide what companies spend their taxes on, and this is exactly what people like Zuckerberg don't want. And I want everybody to open their heads to this, open their minds to this. And what Mr. Schäuble, the Minister of the Interior, thinks of this, I don't really care. No, it's not part of the problem, it's part of the solution in this case. I disagree a bit. I really believe what you mean is collaboration of all the ministries, but we have first to develop ideas on where we want to end up. And I think we need to keep an open mind.
I just stopped the reply option just because you have so many more questions and so little time. Maybe one more sentence and then nothing more to this.
Weil Sie nicht mehr präzisieren konnten, das will ich nicht zulassen.
Ein Satz. Wieso sagt man nicht einfach?
Why don't we say if Apple doesn't pay any taxes in Germany, they're not allowed to sell iPhones? That would be that simple, wouldn't it?
Okay, so another round of applause. Okay, next one, please.
And if we blow gas into the air, we're no longer allowed to sell Volkswagens. It's a bit more complex than you're making it out at this stage, but the basic idea isn't that wrong, yeah. The person in red is standing there, but you're waiting.
My name is Kathrin Fensen. I accompany companies in process redesign, and many that I would say they're already working in 4.0, maybe 5.0, or whatever. And regarding the topic of democracy, individual solutions, there's lots of very interesting examples. And if you'd say you want to prevent the worst, you don't want to make everything the same, but instead you want people to enjoy the work, then I see the most promising solutions where the employees themselves can design the structure and the in-laws and participation in their companies, which is not the same as unionized councils, workers' councils, that are often butting heads with the leadership, but instead about cooperation and collaboration and compromises in the company. So it could be that we're just discussing amongst themselves how much money everybody gets based on transparent finance planning. You could have elections for leadership positions. Is there anything going on in that direction, and what do you think about these kinds of collaboration and democratization of the workplace to actually attack the structures of power within companies that are not democratic? Are there any ways to maybe give a legal basis for that?
As soon as I have the necessary majority for that, I'm going to get to work. There is nothing that's more contested than the question of how we can increase democracy amongst employees, and not, this is a question of power, people. Let's be clear on this. There are so many things that are simply impossible, and I would be very happy if we could reach a consensus on what we want to have and how we can implement these changes, because this is a simple question of political will, and if these things are going to be implemented or not. And right now it feels like, oh great, this is a good time for more deregulation and less democracy. On the other hand, there are many people who say our company is very democratic on a daily basis, and I think we need to ensure that the good people win in this case. It's very simple. How? Well, maybe by bringing up the three most important points that you have, and I'm ready to turn this into law very, very quickly. But I've organized majorities on different subjects, so yeah, I think it would be great if we would eventually come up with a white book that includes some points on the improvement of democracy in corporations, and I'd be happy to include that. I'm deadly serious.
Thanks. This is turning into speed dating. It's 15 minutes left. Please go in the middle. You just said. You just commented on the opinions of Mr. Schäuble. So I'd be interested, since we heard that before, what do you think about the opinions of Sigmar Gabriel regarding the quality of bandwidth and internet connections? I've seen two big talks here at Republika showing statistics, and it makes me feel ashamed to see where Germany is standing there. For good work 4.0, you need proper internet connectivity. So to make it short, the question would be: does the Minister of Work speak to the Minister of Economy to maybe improve the situation within Germany quickly, or do you think that's not necessary?
We're doing that on a regular basis. The most amount of money went to the Minister of Transport, and his name is Dobrindt. And the second largest amount went to the Minister of Economy, and his name is Gabriel. And this is a very regular topic in government meetings. It's really up to the Chancellor herself. And people talk about this all the time, and it's very obvious that we need to cash up. But at least we're making larger investments than than past governments did. I don't know the exact amount, but it's huge. But I'm going to come back to this because I'm meeting Gabriel tomorrow.
Let's continue here. My name is Ramona Schumann. I'm a mayor of a small town in Niedersachsen, in North Saxony, 15,000 inhabitants. And when I think about Work 4.0, I would like to tell my 120 employees and put them somewhere, allow them to work flexibly and support them, and also have the choice to support them as employers. And I find that many of the regulations and laws are actually getting in our way. So my question is, are you also thinking about public sector workers?
Yeah, I'm an employer in the public sector as well. We have hundreds or even thousands of employees in the ministry. We have a very large number of people working remotely. We have 250 different working hour regulations for individual employees. And on the basis of the current regulations, there's already a lot of things that can be done. But what would be an obstacle that you can't get over?
So the big problems we face is the privacy laws, and so mostly privacy laws, and also the expectation that people need to be there at certain times, certain hours.
But you can change something about the expectations, because that's, that's part of the employees, of the employer. That's up to the employer. So I think you need to talk about culture in your organization, because these are simply. There are people who build their entire careers on being the last person in the office at the end of the day, and it's hard to get that out of an organization. But if the executives set an example like I do, I work remotely for 1 day per week. That can change quite a lot. But I don't like to say this, but privacy laws are really part of the Ministry of the Interior. It's a known problem, and we know that there are many problems that employers face. I can only confirm your problems, and I promise to make some pressure.
Thilo, you, huh? Not at the press conference.
Yeah, we wanted to.
We planned to make an interview today, but canceled that. So we're doing it here instead. We don't have enough time, but I have one question, because TTIP is a topic now, and government tells us that TTIP is a good thing. Can you tell us why TTIP is a good thing for employees, or if there might also be disadvantages, and if yeah, which ones?
If we're looking at the current debate on TTIP, then it's not a great thing. It's exactly the opposite. There are certain things that are complete no-goes, and one thing that's always a problem is like the ILUCAN working norm that limits. That prevents child labor, but it's very hard to ratify this in the United States, because all the federal states of the United States have to get involved. And if you look at Tennessee, where at how employers create pressure on their employees there, then it's very obvious that they're not going to ratify this, and then already you're already in the thick of the problems that we're going to face. So yes, I'm not sure how we can see how we can make real progress on this. We've seen it with CETA. We've gained some ground on working protection laws, but we're not there yet with TTIP, and that is why I cannot say that it's without problems yet.
Are there advantages then?
We can be happy if even the most basic things are going to get passed.
Thanks. Okay, the woman next to you, please. My name is Diana Hoffman. I'm self-employed, and I have thought a lot about education in regards to digitization and Industry 4.0, And this is more of a mid-term question. There's been a lot of talk about long-term goals, but I would like to know how you see training on the job and further trainings, education regarding digital jobs. So lots of positions that haven't really been educated very well regarding digitization, and the digitization has also arrived in well, in heavy industries and smaller manufacturing. So it's not just digital natives, it's also the 40-year-old who doesn't have much experience, and we have to somehow get him on board too.
Yes, we need nothing else than an education offensive. I even believe that we need to have a right on tertiary education and even beyond that. Without agreeing with all the people who are predicting the apocalypse, I say that we need, here and now, we need an offensive. We need to get more people to qualify. I just visited Bosch in Feuerbach, and 46% of their employees were either not qualified or requalified, and together with the government, we've come up with a concept that is trying to get more people to qualify, and we're supporting this. I have huge amounts of money for this, but we're not even able to spend it all because many companies are still fast asleep. So I think we need to use the next couple of years to ensure that requalification is possible in organizations. And I want to establish a right on requalifications that employees can use to ensure that they're not going to be left behind. And because I fear that some people might, even don't feel threatened today, might wake up in a few years and notice that they've been left behind. And we need to prevent that.
Svenja Teichmann, I'm a founder, and I lead Crowd Media. It's a digital agency, and I'd like to go back to the topic of Thomas Knuever. You said you were aware of what the minimum wage did regarding internships. So we were a small company, and when we used internships to grow, and it led to follow-up positions later, so full-time positions. So currently our internships go for 3 months, because then minimum wage doesn't apply. And I've brought the topic up in lots of conversations with our interns, and they've realized that, well, there's fewer positions available, and they'd like to work longer. So the question is there any plan that there will be different laws for young companies regarding internships? And also, I mean, I realize that there needs to be certain protections in place for somebody who has a family of 20 years. So are there any plans there on changing the regulations in this area?
No.
So I know this is only my own view, but I've asked this in many rounds and in many discussions.
So what is the problem? What is the problem? We didn't outlaw internships. If they're shorter than 3 months, then you don't have to pay minimum wage. Or if they're, for instance, part of people's studies, then they're still possible. And I talked to organizations. Many of them can define necessary internships. I can't do this as a minister, and it would probably be good for people to gain practical experience. Yes. So why can't it be part of the necessary internships of some studies, then it can be, you know, you can pay less than minimum wage. So I think there are possibilities to allow internships without having to change laws on minimum wage. You're not going to see 1-year internships without minimum wage under, you know, as long as I'm at the helm. That's not going to happen.
Well, I think that's a good approach regarding universities, but lots of people come to us between the bachelor and master, and then they're not signed up for any university, so they want to do an internship to orient themselves. And 6-7 months are different than 3 months, and I don't have just my own perspective.
Yes, we try to define try to coin the term of orientation internship, but it was completely impossible to define this because people have come up to me, the bachelor, master, whatever, however you like to define it. When do people's studies end? We may need to take this up again, but I want to ensure there's no way to avoid minimum wage by defining certain internships as orientation internships. But it's true when we need to debate when people end their studies.
Sorry, but I have to stop you there. We only have a few minutes for last questions, so the next participants, please keep yourself short. My name is Lara Eckstein. I'm a young employee, and I think it's really great that you're here and you're doing this town hall. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say I was very I was surprised to see a video from your ministry where you spoke to recipients of Hartz IV and Social Security, where you apologized to them. So I'd like to understand how did that happen? I think it's great that you did that.
It was satire. It was well-made satire. There's also badly made satire, but this was good. There's nothing else I have to say on the matter. I didn't say these things.
Ganz kurze Frage. Sie haben öfter von den Apokalyptikern.
I only have a very short question. You've been talking about people who predict the apocalypse and the loss of jobs. I'm a simple citizen, but I often find myself in this opposition between the 4.0 thought and, well, I want to ask if you have a concept how you can resolve this conflict, because you've been talking about compromises a lot, and I think there are no compromises to be made here. Why? Well, because if you look at lorry drivers, truck drivers, you may be able to automate them, but then you're going to have to sack them immediately and find a different way of employing them. And I think this is in conflict with zero unemployment as part of our economy.
Well, I mean, this is not a new problem, right? Back in when I was young, in my village had a shoemaker, and now that's not a occupation that you see a lot. We have industries that have been displaced by new processes. They might have completely disappeared, or they might have moved to other countries. And always in these steps, Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, there have been structural changes, and that has made certain industries and certain regions into losers of this process. And some regions in Germany still suffer from that. Like if you look at my home county in Pirmasens. So I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture here, but in the same time, as many jobs have been created that you can't even imagine. We have the highest ratio of employed people, so we will remain a working society. The question is if the people and the industries we see now will still be there in 10 years with the same amount of employees. And that is why we have to work very closely here and figure out how to go in the future regarding working hours and compromises. And We have to make sure that there's not the same amount of losers of this process like the last structural change. And that is one of my goals as a Minister of Work. So I don't see the end of work, and I don't think we will be unable to find alternative forms of work in the future that might look different than the ones today. And just, figure out something that also people will approve of. I see primarily we have to make sure that not too many people get left behind or take a wrong turn or somehow lose out. And that is why we need answers now, we need qualifications now, we need education now. We need to build new culture of entrepreneurialism and founding and startups, because many jobs might not be there tomorrow. But it's not going to be easy, and there's not going to be only winners. I don't believe that. But I can't really help you solve this apparent contradiction. This is something you have to work on together, because otherwise there will be many that go and try and block the progress, which is inevitable.
I'm going to take this as your final words. This was the town hall meeting with Federal Minister of Labour, Andrea Nahles. Thank you for all the questions. And enjoy the rest of Republica. Yes, and thank you for listening to our translation. Your translators today were Philipp and we hope as well that you enjoy the rest of the conference.